Are you seeing the slide which I'm sharing? Okay. So we are going to start with what is culture. What is culture? Cultural factors comprise a set of values, ideologies of a particular community or a certain group. Culture, it comprises of values, ideologies, and within a community or a group. And I'm saying culture now can influence how consumers purchase products. Culture can, the values, certain ideologies which are embedded in an individual or in a consumer's culture can influence the behavior. And for a marketer to be successful, you need now to take into consideration these aspects of culture. You may have a very good product, a very good packaging with a very low price, but if you ignore these aspects of culture, your product may fail to make it into the market. So you need to understand these external value. You may segment your market most probably based on income, based on age, based on attitudes, based on perceptions. But if you ignore these aspects of culture, your product may fail. You may fail to appeal to a certain segment. Consumers may even boycott purchasing your product because of some cultural connotations which marketers may ignore. So considerations of these culture narratives is very important, because we are saying culture, it determines how people behave, and the culture is nothing but the values about an individual. What an individual learns from parents, from relatives, becomes his culture. You individuals or consumers, you need to understand that consumers inherit their culture from their parents, from their relatives, and they really respect their culture. Individuals, consumers really respect their culture. Meaning to say, even our products, when we sell our products, the products should speak to the culture. The product should connect to the culture of an individual, or a product should connect to the culture of our product should connect to the culture of a certain society. Our failure to understand or to appreciate the issues to do with culture, you may end up failing to be successful in a market. A societal culture is a reflection of its traditions, norms, values, and customs. A societal culture is a reflection of their traditions, their norms, their values, and their different customs. So you, as a marketer, you need to be aware of these traditions, norms, or values, customs, which are embedded in a society. And you need to remember that these traditions or these norms or values or customs, they may not be visible. You may not know that there are some cultural connotations, because these norms or values or customs, they may come in the form of symbols. They may come in the form of a gesture. They may come in different forms. And marketers now need to be aware of these different forms in which culture can be communicated. And the shopping habits of an individuals are usually shaped along these lines. The shopping habits of individuals are usually shaped along these lines. Marketers need to take all this into consideration. To define consumer behavior would be akin to defining an umbrella concept of These are many factors. While it is known fact that a marketer is able to control consumer behavior, the reality is far away from that. Remember earlier on, in the previous lessons, I indicated that marketers are in a position to manipulate. They are in a position to create brands, to create products, to manipulate consumer behavior. But that may not be very correct to a certain extent because of this aspect of culture. You may try to manipulate consumers, but you also need to take into consideration the aspect of culture. A marketer can indeed attract the buyers, but he cannot control them as other factors affect the choices they make. And I'm bringing in now the aspect of culture. You may try to attract the buyers, the consumers. They may like your product, but once they realize that there are some cultural connotations which are there, most probably, which are some connotations on your products which are undermining or which are not relating to the culture, your product may face a very big hurdle. These choices, on the other hand, are dependent upon extrinsic factors such as culture. Are you seeing the slide which I'm sharing now? Hello, guys. How culture affects consumer behavior. Culture is learned as part of social experience, as people interact, as people relate to each other. Culture, they learn, and by that, culture also changes. Children acquire from their environment a set of beliefs, values, customs that constitute culture. They learn as children grow. They learn culture. They learn certain beliefs. They learn certain values. These are acquired from formal learning, informal learning, or technical learning. You can learn culture through all those. Advertising enhances formal learning by reinforcing desired modes of behavior, expectations. It enhances informal learning by providing models of behavior. So we are saying, in as much as we are trying to come up with promotional advertising messages, and bearing in mind that we are saying culture changes or is dynamic, our adverts, our products, our messages needs to educate. Consumers need to learn, to adapt to our offering. You need to produce products which suits a certain change, which goes hand in hand with a change in culture. Culture is communicated to members of the society through common language and through commonly shared symbols. The issue aspect of language, I once talked about it, and the issues of symbols. You need to take into considerations these aspects of language, the meanings of language, meanings of symbols, because the human mind is the ability to absorb and process symbolic communication. Marketers can successfully promote both tangible and intangible products and products connected to consumers through mass media. When now you are developing your message, marketers need to take into consideration the issues, tangible, both the tangible and intangible products and the product concepts. You communicate those values, you communicate those messages, you communicate those symbols through mass media. And most probably you are targeting a certain segment of a market of consumers. You need to communicate these processes to such a way that consumers understand the meanings of those different symbols or language. The elements of culture are transmitted by three pervasive social situations, be it a family, be it the church, be it the school, be it relatives. Another social institute that plays a major role in transmission of culture is mass media, both through editorial content and through advertising. You need to be in a position to understand the effect of mass media in communicating our product vis-a-vis the culture which exists. Given the broad and pervasive nature of culture, its study generally requires detailed examination of character of the total society. You need to examine the characteristics or the character of a society. You need to understand the languages. You need to understand the knowledge. You need to understand the laws. You need to understand the religion. You need to understand the food customs, the music, the art, technology, work patterns, products, their artifacts. Because why am I mentioning all these different aspects? These different aspects do have culture which is embedded in them. The art, technology, the work patterns, the customs, the food, the laws, the knowledge. Culture is embedded in them. And your failure now not to understand these different aspects. Remember, I indicated that culture, in most cases, culture is silent. And that is the reason why I usually want to use the word embedded. Culture is silent. It is within the fabrics of a society. And so if now you decide not to look deeper into these culture narratives which are embedded, most probably be it in the food, religion, in the language, in art, in technology, in whatever, it means at the end of the day, you will be unemployed. Your product or your service will get out of business very soon. The invisible hand of culture. Each individual perceives the world through his or her own cultural lens. Culture can exist and sometimes reveal itself at different perceived and subjective levels. Those interested in consumer behavior will be most concerned with the three levels of subjective culture. Each individual perceives the world through his own view. And this now comes into that aspect which I indicated, that individuals differ. Individuals differ from, in fact, markets differ. Markets are not uniform. Perceptions of culture, they differ from one market segment to the other. So don't ever think that when is there anyone who can give me a practical example of hello guys, are you there? Okay, do you know of any advert or a product or any promotional message which mirrors the society? You live in an area where there are no adverts. Yes. I will give you an example of I usually give examples of beer. There is a beer which is called Igu. Panache, you know that? In Zimbabwe. Okay, when Igu was launched in Zimbabwe, I think you can go and Google the advert of Igu. It was featuring an eagle, you know, the eagle, the bird, which was flying over a field of sorghum. Sorghum is mapfunde, right? And beer is made from, brewed from sorghum, right? Yes. So the eagle was flying over a field of sorghum. And this advert now was saying the eagle will be flying over the field of sorghum. The advert will end like the eagle has landed. And they will say, brewed from the natural, they say what? Panache. Brewed from the natural sorghum. I want to talk about how the connection of culture and an advert. Because they know that people in Zimbabwe usually they drink these herbs from which are traditionally brewed. So they want to connect the advert with the culture of the local community. We have got other adverts in part of in Zimbabwe. I will only give adverts from Zimbabwe, where they feature the warriors. You know, the warriors of the Ndebele kingdom. They advertise a product, but featuring those shields and those warriors. They are want to communicate. They are trying to communicate something with the culture of a certain community. There was another advert from a company called Net One. There is a mountain in Buera which is called Mutiu Sinazita, which is a tree without a name. So Net One went on to put a booster in a mountain which is in Mutiu Sinazita. Then Net One's advert was now saying the Mutiu Sinazita now has got a name because of the booster which they installed in one of the mountains. So this is, I don't know if my examples speaks well to how adverts may relate to a certain culture. Hello. We have got a product like Zambezi. Do you know Zambezi? Lager. Go and look for the adverts for Zambezi. It connects with the river, with the Zambezi river. So, yes. Where else did you see the Zambezi river? Yes, it actually that is the where it flows. It flows into Mozambique. It flows into Mozambique. In fact, the Kariba Dam, you know, the mighty Kariba Dam, it's in Zambezi. Yeah. So there is a brand here, beer, which is called Zambezi, and they take it from that. From exactly, but it's about the river. So they want to connect a product with they want to connect a product with the culture, the norms, the culture of a certain of certain people. But if you take that Zambezi and go and sell it, most probably in Ireland where panache is, it will not make any sense. But there is another important aspect. I think you learned it when you were doing international marketing, that you may take a homegrown culture and export it to another culture, like what happened to Pilsner. Panache, where is the origin of Pilsner? Uh, should be Norway. Should be Norway. If I'm not mistaken, there is a province which is called Pilsen. So the herbs and whatever, they are produced in that area. It's Czech Republic, right? So the herbs and whatever, they are grown in that area. So the name Pilsner comes from that area. So that is how products connect to culture. I don't know if I managed to explain myself very well. Sorry, Ngakuzwe and Kundai, Mandrina. My examples are awkward. All right, it's fine. Okay, let's now look at core values. How core? We talked about values. Are my slides moving? Then here I've got a quote from Steve Jobs in 1997 addressed to Apple workers. He indicated that, to me, marketing is all about values. It's all about the values of the organization. It's all about the values of the society. And values are an intrinsic part of what it means to be human. They are the heart at how we choose to live our lives. They are important in how consumers make their decisions. The greatest point of differentiation between one brand and the next will be how they relate to us on an identity level. Products need to relate to our identity, and our identity are our values. Our identity is our culture. Just 1 minute. I need to collect my food. 1 minute. Sugar, milk, sugar, milk. Sorry guys, I was taking my food. I'm in quarantine, so they put my food at the door. Hello, are you there? Hello? Okay, let's proceed. It's this crucial point of differentiation, of ultimately understanding what drives your consumers, and that has contributed to the success of many campaigns. You are a marketer. Your products now identify with a certain culture, you are in a position to differentiate your products from one market to another, from one consumer to another. Your products identifies with certain markets. Some organizations or some companies may even go further, like to change product packaging so that the product speaks closer to their identity, or it speaks closer to the market. Understanding issues to do with language. That is the reason why, from a Zimbabwean perspective, if you are in Harare, we have got a milk product which is called Chimombe. If you go to Matebeleland region, there is it's called what? Inkomo. They want to communicate the differentiation, but it's the same product, but different name. They want to communicate with the community. A personal belief or value drives many of our daily decisions, and values are the main factor in a purchase decision. These brands are already showcasing their values. According to this Elderman brand survey, 87% of people want a meaningful relationship with the brands, but only 17% think brands are actually delivering. Consumers want brands to communicate with their culture, to communicate with their values. And a lot of people think that the products don't communicate they don't communicate their values, they can't communicate their culture. Any questions? Any additions? Any subtractions before I proceed to cultural diversity and its influence of your consumers? Consumers' diverse cultural disposition play a role in perceptions of marketing communication. Consumer diverse cultural disposition play a role because, remember, when we are doing our marketing communications, we are trying to create certain perceptions. We did perception mapping last time. You are trying to create perceptions, and these perceptions also differ based on different cultures. One vital issue has been the influential role of cultural context on manifestation of culture. The influential role of cultural context. You need to contextualize, to understand different cultures so that you are in a position to identify how certain cultures are evolving. And as they evolve, that is how now they manifest or they come out so that it is known. Foreign cultures review the prominence of cultural diversity. Consumers should be treated as individual entities given the diversity of preference across cultures. Nowadays, it's difficult to have what is called a mass market. Individuals are different. Consumers are different. The relevance of culture to consumer behavior is critical for creating sustained competitive advantage. The relevance, you need to sustain, your product needs to be sustainable. And it can only be done if you understand the aspects of culture. Consumers across selected cultures attribute various personalities about the Red Bull. The perception of Red Bull, this is an example of perception of Red Bull across certain personalities. Some thought it's an energy drink. Some associated with excitement, sincerity, competence, all those. These are perceptions across different cultures. Culture can be thought of as an invisible teacher, which consumers revert to for guideline. for guidelines. It's an invisible teacher in the sense that when consumers want to make purchasing decisions, they look for information. They look into their memory. Remember, I talked about their memory. They go to the internet. They ask their friends, and they even go to look about, is this acceptable in our culture? If I'm to buy this product, is it acceptable in our culture? All those issues are of paramount importance. Consumers sometimes unaware of reactions to stimuli, are unaware of reaction to a certain stimuli due to the vulnerability of consumer behavior to culture. Some consumers are unaware of certain cultural or reactions, but these issues, they may be unaware to this stimuli due to vulnerability of consumer behavior to culture. Culture really shapes how consumers behave. Culture can actually manipulate the consumer behavior. That is why I'm saying consumer behavior is vulnerable to culture, because it needs to take into cognizance how the importance of culture. The adaptability of marketing communication to prevailing cultural variation determine the effectiveness of marketing communication. I think you understand what I mean by marketing communication. When we are talking about marketing communication, it may be a promotional message, it may be an advert, it may be those different marketing activities which you do. That's marketing communication, because it's coming from the fact that you are communicating with the consumers. Then let's now, I think we are almost at the end of the lecture. Cultural influence on international research, and this aspect, I think you did it when you were doing international